Oh, there you are. Go live. Okay. Hi, I'm just waiting for the team to confirm that we are actually streaming live. Um, I think we're about good to go. Awesome. Okay. How are you? I'm Mel Robbins, and this is Mindset Reset. It is a month-long free training program where I am teaching you all of the research, proven tools, and simple things that you can do to fundamentally reset how you think, to reprogram the default network in your brain, and to deal with the stress, the limiting beliefs, the anxiety that you feel. Um, because when you change how you think, you will change your life. So if you are already a part of our program, I want to thank you. There's more than 200,000 of us around the world who are partaking in this month-long project to do a mindset reset. If this is the first video that you're watching, this is video 17 in our series. All of the videos are available for free on YouTube and on Facebook on my social media pages. They stay up for 24 hours on Instagram. And if you would like to get the daily emails, just go to melrobbins.com/mindset reset, and you can sign up to get the free email that comes out every weekday, recapping what the video is and giving you the links that you need, so that it's easy. There's nothing to manage. Okay, so the other thing I want to thank you for is the month of December, we had 39 million views, likes, impressions. Like, it's incredible how many of you were reaching. So I want to thank you for watching the content. I want to thank you for trying out things that I am sharing with you. And I also want to thank you for sharing what you're finding helpful with your friends, with your family, with your colleagues, with people in your multi-level marketing business. I just really, really, really appreciate all of the support and how you are taking these tools and spreading them around the world. So today, we're going to continue with training around anxiety. And over the next couple days, we're going to be, or the next couple videos, I should say, we're going to be addressing specific kinds of anxiety that people feel. And we're also going to be addressing specific anxieties that kids and teenagers feel. So please stay tuned. And if you haven't signed up yet to be part of Mindset Reset, go to melrobbins.com/mindset reset. Before I jump into specific types of anxiety, I would like to just recap that we've already covered 16 days worth of incredible life-changing information. You can go back at any time and review these videos at your leisure, at your own pace. There's no test. These are tools that you will practice for the rest of your life. And so don't forget, if you haven't checked out the visualization video number 1, if you haven't looked into the default network of your brain, go to videos 2 through like 6. The power of the morning routine and why I hammer home the idea of owning your mornings, because of the critical connection between how you wake up, what you're thinking about, the first couple things that you do, and your mindset, your dreams, and your focus. Those are all in videos 1 through 16. Please continue to watch those. Please continue to use the tools. Today, what we're talking about is we are building on everything you've already learned about anxiety. And so in video 14, we talked about I think I've got the titles right, but whatever. The anxiety videos, I think, are 13 through the next couple of videos. We've talked about the connection between worry and anxiety and the difference. We have talked about the power of anchor thoughts. We have had you go through and start to identify triggers in your life that trigger you to worry or feel anxious. And we have asked you to do the work to come up with anchor thoughts that you're going to go to, so that when those triggers happen in your life, you have a plan for how you're going to think this thing that's positive versus that thing that's negative. And now we're going to kick off and talk about specific triggers. And this is coming specifically from you. So it's also really important that you leave us questions in the comments, that you tell us about your victories in the comments, that you continue to post on social media, tag us, use the hashtag Mindset Reset, because we are looking, we are watching, and we are cheering you on, and we are here to help. Okay, now, one final thing. I spent a large time of my life dealing with an anxiety disorder, dealing with clinical anxiety. I sought professional help for 2 decades. And while I have cured myself of that anxiety disorder and I no longer take medication for it, I want to be very clear about something. We're talking in these trainings about generalized anxiety, the small triggers throughout your day. If you have experienced trauma, if you have an anxiety disorder, if your anxiety is so debilitating that it makes it impossible for you to do the day-to-day things that you used to be able to do, you need to go work with somebody who's a professional. And there's no shame in that. In fact, it's one of the best possible gifts that you could possibly do. You know, my husband and I are actively looking to find a great marriage counselor, not because there's anything wrong, but because with all of the changes that are coming with this brand new daytime talk show that I'm launching with Sony Pictures and with Tribune Media, there's a lot of change that our marriage is going to absorb, and I want to get in front of it. And so I'm going to be using the exact same tools that I am teaching to you, and I also am going to find a resource so that Chris and I have somebody to talk to so that we can do the work to make sure that we are in the best mental place to absorb and ride the wave of all the changes that are coming and hopefully still stay positive and have fun while we're doing it. So anyway, as you can tell, I'm like all for doing the work. So that said, let's jump into specific triggers. Today we're talking about time of day triggers. And the interesting thing about time of day is that time of day is a very common connection for a lot of people in anxiety. So for example, you might wake up in the morning and you have anxiety. And that literally the early morning hours are when you have anxiety. You might have anxiety and nerves kind of come up around 5 o'clock at night as people are coming home. And you might have anxiety at 10 o'clock at night. And one of the reasons why time of day is a particular trigger for people to start to worry or people to start to feel tension in their bodies is because many of you have had traumatic events that happened to you in your childhood. And the thing about traumatic events, whether you experienced abuse or you witnessed abuse or you had even a verbally abusive parent or brother or sister in your household, your body remembers what that was like. And so let's start with the 5 o'clock time of day. There's a ton of you that have written about how you're discovering that at 5 o'clock, you notice that you get tense. You notice that you start bracing. You notice that you feel on edge. What do you do about it? Okay, so if it is because of tension with your partner or your roommate, those nerves and that anxiety that you feel and agitation in your body, that is a sign that there is something to deal with, okay? And you need to turn it into something productive, meaning you need to sit down with your roommate and deal with it. You need to sit down with the person that's coming home that has a drinking problem or that fights with you and deal with it. And it may mean that what you actually need to do is leave the relationship or leave the living situation because it's not changing and being there triggers you. So the mental work is important, both because it tells you, nerves can be a good thing. They can tell you what you're worried about and what you need to start thinking about solutions for. And nerves can also mean that if you've tried to solve the problem and it's not changing based on you changing and trying to address it, you need to physically remove yourself from the trigger. That's what you need to do. So that's the most important thing. If you grew up in a household where dad was coming home, I saw a lot of stories on Facebook and Instagram about this, that, you'd be standing at the door. There was somebody that wrote that it was actually 4 o'clock. It was 4 o'clock that was a trigger for someone. And the reason why it was 4 o'clock is because he used to stand at the window and watch and see if dad was coming. And if dad came at 4, it was good because it meant he had come straight home from work. If he was arriving later, it meant he had stopped somewhere to start drinking, and everybody braced for the worst. And your body remembers that. Your body remembers trauma in a very, very different place than just normal memories, because anything that's traumatic, and traumatic can range from somebody that was a yeller to physical abuse. Trauma is really all about how you felt and processed the events that were happening around you. A lot of people don't realize that PTSD is not just for people that are in active duty, that PTSD results also from childhood trauma. And so, if you're somebody that's constantly having triggers come up because of things that you witnessed or survived in your childhood, it's really important to talk to a licensed professional about whether or not it could be a form of PTSD. So again, if it's a 5 o'clock trigger based on things that used to happen in your past, or a 5 o'clock trigger based on conflict that's happening in your household now, that is a sign that A, you got to be super proactive about addressing it. And B, if you can't address it, you've tried to address it, it's not safe to address it, you need to remove yourself from the situation. End of story. Now let's talk about the anxiety and nerves and agitation people feel at either 8 o'clock in the morning, like when you wake up in the morning, or when you're about to go to bed. So many times, let's try the morning. If you wake up and you feel agitation, this was me when Chris and I were going through all of our problems 10 years ago. I would wake up and already feel anxious. And the reason why that happens is because when you wake up and have to face the day, there are things in your day that cause you to be nervous. There are things in your day that are causing conflict. And so again, just like the 5 o'clock, you need to look at this as data. You need to look at the fact that you're waking up and feeling anxious about what you have to live into. And that means that you have to get deliberate about addressing the things that are making you anxious. If you hate your job and you wake up and you're anxious, that is a sign that you need to start looking for a job. It's not a sign to drag yourself into work and to have a crappy attitude and to, or call in sick when or whatever it may be. It's not a license to act like a jerk or to disengage. It is data that you need to start to get to work, getting yourself out of the situation that's not working for you. And so if you wake up in the morning, an exercise that you can do today is you can start to write down all the things in your life that you need to address. I realize you might be afraid to address them. I realize that you might feel overwhelmed about addressing them. I realize you might not even know how to address them. Doesn't matter. Get it out of your head, get it out of your body, and get it on paper. That's the first step. Because once you have all the things that you need to deal with on paper, you can do a million things. You can Google the issues and look for advice. You can read books about it. You can ask a friend to help you. You can get professional help, whether it's a therapist or a job counselor or whatever. But you've got to start to get deliberate, because the habit of waking up and feeling anxious is keeping you trapped in your head, and it's paralyzing you. It's absolutely paralyzing you. The evening trigger, so when you're about to go to bed and you start to feel anxious, that might be because you have a reoccurring nightmare. It might be because you are anxious about the fact that another day has gone by and things are still not happy, or things are still not fixed, or you haven't made any forward movement, or you feel sad about something. And so if it's the anxiety at night, it's really anxiety about the fact that when you wake up tomorrow, you got to deal with the same stuff. And so it's the exact same advice as the anxiety in the morning, which is if you are going to bed and you feel agitated and you have a million things on your mind, write them all down. Write them all down. They're not going to get solved by thinking about them. They're going to get solved when you start to take action. And so much of the training that we're talking about is about getting you out of the habit of ruminating and worrying and driving yourself crazy by just thinking, and getting you into a habit of noticing that the things that you worry about can either be productive or destructive. And they're only productive if you make a deliberate choice to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm not going to think about that. I'm going to write it down on a piece of paper. And I'm going to choose to start to solve this problem with small actions every single day. That is in my control. And when you start to take control in that manner, you are going to feel like a totally different person, because you will be a different person. You'll be one that is taking action despite how you feel. I want to go to some questions now. So, and Danielle, will you give me that post that I wanted to respond to in our text chain too? Trisha Silva, shout out to Trisha Silva. Thank you for the tips. I am realizing the physical anxiety feelings I have toward a social event and that causes me to run, that they can be worked on and it can be redirected. Absolutely. You can feel agitation and literally still move through it. In fact, the only thing that will disappear fear, the only thing that will give you control is to stop thinking about it, to redirect your thoughts, and then take an action that is aligned with a solution that requires a little courage. The thing that you're avoiding is usually what it is. Roger from YouTube, can this also work for time of year anxiety? Absolutely. The season triggers are a huge change in me, and my anxiety spikes in the winter. So that is super common. And it's super common because, number one, winter, it gets dark really early. And I definitely have some sort of seasonal thing going on too, because in Boston, where we live, it's like dark at 4:30. It is like the whole state is depressed. It's so dark. And I hate that time of year because of it. And so, yes, this can work for seasonal anxiety too. Another reason why people have seasonal anxiety is because maybe you lost a loved one during a certain season. Maybe you experienced a major change that made you feel uncertain or uncomfortable during a certain season. Now, again, the important thing is recognize it. Ask yourself what happened to you that makes you feel anxious during the winter time. And then more importantly, let's turn it into something productive instead of something destructive, which is what steps can I take to anchor myself or change my behavior in the winter so that I'm not so triggered. Nicole Pennant asked this morning on Instagram. I really hope you see this. My question is, what do you do when certain people and situations trigger negative emotions in you? If sometimes seeing these people is unavoidable at times, are there tools I can use to brace myself before entering these situations and to not let things bother me so much? Absolutely. People are a huge trigger. And the reason why people are a huge trigger is because we all have very different energies, right? And tones of voice. And so somebody, oh God, my computer's, hold on one second. My computer is deciding that it is tired and wants to go to sleep on me. Uh-oh. Where is hold on. See? I'm not panicking. I'm problem solving. Here we go. Oh my God. Oh. Get in. Oh dear. And here is oh gosh, this is really embarrassing. They told me that my lunch was going to show up at 1:30. So can I let this guy in and I'll keep going? I'm really embarrassed. But see, this is real life. Hi,
Good morning.
how are you?
How are you?
Good. I'm doing a live stream, so you're on camera. I just want to let you know. You don't have to unpack everything. I can do it. I'm really sorry for the interruption, everybody. I mismanaged this. But you're early, thank you, because I'm starving. I gave a speech this morning in Vegas and literally have had about this much to eat, and so I am starving. What's your name?
Felipe,
Thank you so much.
you're very
awesome.
welcome. And
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate you.
Toss lightly.
Awesome. You're the best.
Thank you very much. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you.
See, I ordered a salad, everybody, with a little protein.
Bye-bye now.
Bye. Have an awesome day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
So back to the question. I really hope you see this, Michael. Oh, people. So the really important thing is to try not to brace yourself, because when you're like, oh, about this, you're already tense and on edge. And so you're even more easily triggered. I would ask yourself, what is it about this person that triggers you? So is it just that they're irritating? Or is it that they say things that confirms your limiting beliefs? They treat you in a way that triggers that limiting belief that you're trying to redirect. Couple tools that have really worked for me around people that trigger me. Number one, I always think about a force field. So I think about not bracing, but just having sort of a force field around me so that their stuff doesn't penetrate me. The second thing that has been hugely transformative for me is empathy. So I think that people that are jerks and people that are mean and people that snap and people that are negative and people that are grating, people that are rude, I think that they must have a horrible life. And I often say to myself, I wonder what happened. There's that tool again. I wonder what happened to them that made them this miserable. And it works. That technique works with bosses. It works with parents. It works with friends. To come from a little bit of empathy and realize it's not about you. There is something that is completely off with them. It's also helped me a lot to understand narcissism, and that narcissism is and can be a disorder. And if you are dealing with somebody who's a narcissist, you're dealing with somebody that actually doesn't have the capacity to care or be interested in other people. It truly is all about them. It's not personal. It's their issue. And so you got to be careful, though, when other people's behavior trigger the issues that you're working on. That's where the force field comes up. So I'll deal with the baloney I say to myself in my own mind, but I don't let other people do things that confirm it. Does that make sense? I literally just put the force fields up and I'm like, this is a miserable human being. This is an untransformed human being. This is an unhappy person. And can you imagine how awful it must be to live inside their brain all day long? I just come from that space. If it is a work situation, though, where somebody is treating you poorly, you have to also draw some boundaries. You really do. I realize your boss may be a jerk, but you can stand calmly as they're yelling and be like, hey, I'm happy to do whatever you ask, but do not yell at me, please. You can draw those boundaries, because a lot of people that are irritating and annoying and grating, they don't even realize what they're doing. They're so triggered emotionally. It's so about them. They're so untransformed and they live at this plane. They don't do any self-awareness, no personal development. They don't even know the half of they haven't even occurred to them to reset their mindset. Hasn't even occurred to them to care about other people. Hasn't even occurred to them how their own behavior is impacting you. So also be clear that if these are people like family members that you have to see, you can draw boundaries, and you should. If there are particular things that people do that irritate you, that trigger you, you can sit down and explain it, because the person might not even realize it. My mom and I had a really powerful conversation a couple of years ago where we were in this cycle where we could spend about 3 days together on a vacation, and then we would have a blow up. And we did. We had this big blow up about something really stupid. And then it was interesting. She said to me, why do you always take my blow up so damn personally? I'm just the kind of person that has an explosion. I get it out of me, and then it's over. Why do you always think that it has something to do with you? It has nothing to do with you. And it was the first time, and this took me 47 years to realize, that holy cow, like, part of the dynamic that was not working between my mom and I is that I took everything so damn personally because my issue is being afraid of disappointing people. She wasn't disappointed at all. She just was irritated. And it had, I might have done something to irritate her, but she has her explosion. She's done. It has literally changed our relationship because I changed how I processed her getting upset. And that only happened because we sat down and talked about it. And she was clear with me that, look, I'm just the kind of person that does this, and stop making it about you, okay? It's nothing. This is how I move on. And I'm like, okay, I totally get it now. Alex Fisher, any advice for the 5 p.m. feeling of being on edge when loved ones drink, even in a healthy way? I don't want to have to restrict their behavior, but not sure how to anchor through it. I think, Alex, you have to be direct about this. When we were doing our Audible project that launches in February called Take Control of Your Life, there was a profound story about a woman who grew up in a household with a parent that drank. And if that is you, the experience of that gets hardwired into your nervous system. And so even the sound of the wine coming out of the bag, even the sound of the ice clunk clunk going into the glass, even the sound of psh, the can of beer opening up, it can trigger that stored memory and make you anxious. And so you got to get to the bottom, Alex, as to whether or not it is something related to your past. That's one. The second thing is you also have to understand what your boundaries are. What is it about the drinking that's triggering you? Is it the amount? Is it the frequency? Is it the behavior changes in the person that you love? And if there are things that you can identify where your partner or spouse is doing things that are triggering this stored tension in you, you need to sit down and talk about it. You really do, because they may not realize how it's impacting you. And you have a right to talk about the behavior that your spouse or partner is engaged in that's triggering old stuff for you, or there are things that you've witnessed. I'll never forget my kids. This happened to both Chris and I. Chris saw a video of himself plowed on a big trip that we took to a dude ranch for my dad's 70th birthday. And, we were just drinking up a storm and having a good old time. And he saw a video of himself. And it was enough to make him stop drinking for 2 years. And my kids showed me a video once of me kind of slurring my words after half a bottle of wine one night. And it was mortifying. And I didn't realize that I sounded like that. And so I think a lot of times people that reach for alcohol as a habit to unwind at the end of the day or have a glass of wine as they're cooking don't realize that that turns into 2, 3, 4 glasses. And next thing you know, they're slurring your words and they're passed out at 9 o'clock. And that impacts your sex life and intimacy and just your connection. And so I would come from a place of love, and I would come from a place of compassion. And I would speak very honestly about the impact that it's having on you. Julie, what if at 5 p.m. you have anxiety to stop working? I know I need to stop, but my obsessive anxiety to keep hustling takes over and I end up working until 9 or later. So Julie, I don't know how old you are, but if you are obsessively hustling and it's not healthy, you have to train yourself to stop. And so I use Parkinsons Law. It is every day I plan my quitting time, and that acts as a temp pole that makes me more productive because I know at 5:13 I am not going to work. In fact, I'm really proud. I shouted out somebody on my story who planned to quit at 5:15, and she took a screenshot of her phone. It said 5:14, and she was walking out of work. Here's what you need to understand about business. You're not going to get more done because you're working till 9 o'clock at night. Period. First of all, you're driven by anxiety and worry. That will impact your focus, your ability to be productive. If you concentrate and if you do the important work, you can get your work done in a full day. You don't have to work until the wee hours of the night. And it's critical for your brain to take breaks, to have blank space, to be able to just process what happened, to decompress, to focus on something else. And so I get that you have the hustle. I get that you're doing something that really matters to you. I do not believe in the 24/7 work ethic. I don't. Now, it's probably laughable to my team because I'm always seemingly working because I travel so much, but I have started, I don't work anymore on airplanes. I don't work at night when I travel. I guard my weekends like a hawk, which is why we are no longer doing Mindset Reset over the weekends. I got so excited about helping all of you. I said 35 days in a row, and then I realized why did I do that? So it's really important that you understand your brain needs a break. And if you want to be successful, you have to find and schedule the time to stop working. So I would recommend that you maybe plan a quitting time. You give yourself a 2 to 4 hour window where you're not working. And if you're so nervous about the kind of work you do, an hour before bed, give yourself 15 to 20 minutes to check in and then put that phone away. All right. Speaking of putting the phone away, I want to remind you that we're not going to be broadcasting on the weekends. I want to give you a break. I want to give me a break. I want to give our team a break. And I also want you to take the weekend to reset your mind and to relax a little and sleep in and maybe do some creative thinking or some fun things instead of always like putting a lot of pressure on yourself. To remind you, what you should be doing as part of this program is just paying attention to the way that you're thinking and redirecting from this thought that's negative to a predetermined mantra or positive thought that makes you feel good. So instead of thinking that you're not worthy, think that you're awesome because you always try. Instead of saying, boy, I really blew that, say, well, now I know better, so I'll do better next time. And this happens for me all the time too. Like I woke up this morning at 4:30 in the morning in Las Vegas, and I immediately felt sad because I was in a hotel room halfway across the country from my family, and I just missed them. And so I picked up the phone. It was 7:30 back home, and my son got on the phone, and I started to cry hearing his voice. And he was so cute. He said, "Mom, why are you focused on worrying about right now when you're going to be home tonight? Think about that. Don't think about this." And it was just so simple that, here I am teaching more than 200,000 people around the world how to do a mindset reset. And my own son at the age of 13 is also helping me do a mindset reset as I'm feeling sad or I'm having thoughts that don't serve me. And so you can choose what you think about. And that's the most important thing. And it is normal to worry, but you've got a choice about whether those worries are productive and they signal you to start taking action, or they're destructive because they keep you trapped in your head. And you've got a choice about whether or not you're going to let those worries become a habit and start agitating your body. And you got a choice about whether or not you redirect your thoughts and you create anchor thoughts that make you excited and happy about the things that you're about to do or the things that you're trying to survive through. And knowing that a year from now, if you just keep moving forward in small ways, that your life is going to change. That's how it happens. And so all I want you to do is continue using the tools, watch the videos at your own pace, and please continue to practice the morning routine. Plug in your phone at night, don't sleep with it. When the alarm goes off, get out of bed and spend the first 10 to 30 minutes of your day planning your day, thinking about what you're going to do and think about that's important to you. You start doing that every day and your life will fundamentally change. All right, I got to hop because I got a salad to eat and a plane to catch. But in case nobody else tells you today, I want to be sure to tell you that I love you and I believe in your ability to change your life for the better by doing the little things every single day that move you in the direction of your dreams and the things that make you happy and relationships that are better for you, that you're drawing boundaries to protect your mental health, that you're drawing boundaries for your well-being, and that you're making the requests that you need so that you feel safe, supported, and loved in the relationships that you're in. All right, everybody, I'll see you tomorrow. I hope you have an awesome day. And thank you again for being a part of Mindset Reset. And if you want to get involved, just go to melrobbins.com/mindset reset. We'll talk to you tomorrow. What are we talking about tomorrow? Oh, we're talking about social media anxiety tomorrow, FOMO, and comparing our imperfect lives to perfectly manicured lives online of perfect strangers, and how it's triggering you in ways you probably don't realize. So this is going to be a really important conversation, and we'll have it tomorrow.